The Rolex Submariner is a heck of a watch and my absolute grail since I was a little boy. You see, it's never been about the branding, it's always been about the aesthetic. So why exactly am I talking about a Rolex watch in a Seiko review, you may ask? Well, the answer may surprise you. But first, let's explore this beauty. The Seiko 62 MAS is one of the most important watches in Seiko's history. Its full name is 62 MAS-010. The letters MAS come from Seiko-matic self-dater. It was a 37mm watch that was powered by the caliber 62 that was also used in a range of other automatic watches called Seiko-matic. This was an important movement for Seiko as it's been offered in chronometer grades with the Seiko-matic chronometer that eventually became the 62 GS, the very first automatic Grand Seiko. The 62 MAS was released in 1965, the same year that Rolex released the first Submariner, and it was a reference number 1680 with the 1575 caliber. The Rolex waterproofness surpassed the 62 MAS by 50 meters. They both lack manual winding and hacking, but the 62 MAS had a quick set date that Rolex lacked. In Baselworld 2017, Seiko announced the launch in the technical line of Prospex watches of the two new pieces, a limited edition that was a faithful reproduction of the famous Seiko reference 6217 and a modern reinterpretation of the classic with an updated design. Now, the SLA, although beautiful, was limited to 2,000 pieces and it cost a little over $4,000. And the SPB143 and the SPB143 were beautiful looking pieces, don't get me wrong, but had a diameter of over 42 millimeters. This was one of the main reasons why those releases never really spoke to me. In regards to the SLA, it was completely out of my price range, and the SPB models, well, let's just say it was a little big in my opinion. Fast forward to 2020 and Seiko announced that as a part of the brand's 55th anniversary, these four new SPB models were loosely inspired by the brand's first dive watch, the 62 MAS. The new SPB models use the 62 MAS inspiration to a modern day version of a skin diver. All the new watches look beautiful in my opinion, but for me, the SPB143, also known as the SBDC101, struck a chord, and the minute I laid eyes on it, I knew I had to have it in the collection. For many, including myself, the fact that Seiko is trying to move up market is troublesome. And as we all come to know Seiko watches as affordable do-it-all watches, the gateway watch, if you will, into watch addiction. I mean collecting. Look, I was in the same boat until I had the opportunity to get this watch in the metal. In pictures, the watch looked nice and all. On paper, it looked fantastic. But justifying paying that much more money for a Seiko diver was a little uncomfortable. But my gut told me to pull the trigger, and so I did. If you haven't seen my unboxing video, go check it out. You can hear the excitement and relief in my voice. The watch presents very well, and it looks stunning. However, videos and pictures don't do this watch any justice. Furthermore, by putting this watch side by side with my beloved Seiko SKX007, I gotta be honest, they look pretty similar, and you wouldn't assume that the SPB143 is worth that much more money, but I can tell you that you will be making the wrong assumption. This watch has so much more to offer in terms of technical specs, aesthetics, and overall feel. The SPB143 case measures in at 40.5 millimeters. It's 47.6 millimeters from lug tip to lug tip. It's 13.2 millimeters and it features a 20 millimeter lug width. It's constructed of 316L stainless steel. It features Seiko's super hard coating to help minimize scratches in your day-to-day life, and it weighs in at 180 grams with the bracelet. The unsigned screw down crown can be found at the 3 o'clock and it measures in at 6.4 millimeters, and it's actually super easy to grip. This 200 meter ISO certified diver is a true tool watch through and through, and that's been the mass market appeal with so many collectors and watch lovers alike. Some other watch brands and watch models like, let's say, the Rolex Submariner, started out as tool watches, but are now, honestly in my opinion, pieces of jewelry. Around the dial, we find a matte finish 120 click unidirectional bezel made out of stainless steel that in certain lights looks awesome. The coin edge bezel is super easy to turn, and compared to say the SKX, it feels super responsive with no backplay, and the clickiness really feels good, and it lines up. Protecting the dial is a double dome anti-reflective sapphire crystal that looks super clean and stays true to that vintage aesthetic. The dial is incredible, and in my opinion, it's the start of the show. In low light, it looks dark gray, but when the light hits it, the different shades of gray shine through, and the sunburst effect will honestly leave you breathless. The hands are folded down the middle and are brushed. The second hands bears that 62 MAS paddleboard square towards the end. Around the dial, we do find nicely squared applied indices, and at the 3 o'clock the date window. And at the 12 o'clock the word Seiko, and towards the 6 o'clock we find the Prospex logo, along with the words automatic, divers 200 meters, and below the minute markings the words Japan 6R35 OOKOR2. No idea what that means. In all seriousness though, of course this being a Seiko, you know that it was going to feature some incredible lume, and Seiko's Lume Bright shines bright and crisp, and it's found on the indices, hands, and lume pip bezel that's located at the 12 o'clock. Seiko's Lume Bright is one of the things that all watch collectors around the world can agree on, and that's that it's badass. The screw down case back has a mixture of brush and polished surfaces, and features a famous Seiko tsunami wave along with some information regarding the specs of the watch. In case you're wondering, no, I'm not removing that sticker. I'm just that careful with my watches. The upper and sides of the case have this really nice vertical brushing, and in the middle of the case going towards the lugs there's a nice polished surface that elevates the watch to another level. On the side of the case we also find drill lugs that in my opinion more watches need to incorporate in their design, as it makes strap changes so much easier and minimizes the risk of scratching the case when changing the straps. Not to mention they make the watch look a little more rugged. Powering this watch is the automatic 6R35 movement that features a day complication, 24 joules, and it beats at 21,600 bph. One of the most remarkable and useful features for me is the 70 hour of power reserve, and this particular watch is giving me about 72 hours, which is impressive. The movement can be hacked, hand wound, and it's accurate to -15 plus 25 seconds a day. It has a magnetic resistance of 60 gauss, so that's resistant enough around most home appliances. The caliber 6R35 is beginning to find its way into watches that used to house the 6R35 movement. The biggest difference obviously between the two movements is a 20 power hour reserve increase. So 6R35 had approximately 50 hours, and of course the 6R35 has approximately 70 hours. The solid link stainless steel bracelet is also constructed of 316L stainless steel, and it measures into 20 millimeters and it tapers down to 18 millimeters and then back to 20 millimeters at the clasp. The entire bracelet is brushed and the sides are polished. However, I'm a little disappointed that it features a pin and collar system to resize the bracelet. The mill clasp is super easy to operate, and it features the Seiko logo on the fold over safety clasp. It has 4 micro adjusts and is well constructed. Seiko also included a diver's extension, so you can wear this watch on top of your wetsuit. Not that anyone will be diving with this watch, but hey, it's there. I also think it's a little disappointing that the end link of the bracelet have a little bit of play, but you know what, it's not a deal breaker. So now that we covered all the technical specs, I can tell you my honest opinion. I absolutely love this watch, have not been able to take it off my wrist, and in my opinion it's worth every single penny. If it's better than any other dive watches in my collection, and it's super comfortable to wear, especially when you change the strap to a less heavier and bulkier option. So let me tell you why I started with the video talking about the Rolex Submariner. None of the watches in my collection, nor any watches I've reviewed on the channel, have ever struck me as much as this watch. I can honestly tell you that the Rolex itch has been scratched, and knowing I have something in the collection from a company with heritage and a descendant of the first Seiko dive watch speaks volumes to me. So of course the next logical question then is, Miguel, do you recommend this watch, and do you see why Seiko's moving up market? The answer is yes and yes. It's that simple. You see, for a long time we got spoiled with paying crazy low prices for well-constructed watches from a true watch company. The reality of it is that Seiko was undervaluing their watches for a long time. Look, at the end of the day, I know that this watch and this prices are not for everybody, and that's absolutely fine. We just need to respect each other. And on that note, thank you so much for watching. Please comment, like, subscribe, and stay humble, my friends.